A black Rolls-Royce slowly stopped near a corner where a homeless woman sat. The door opened and a tall man stepped out. He wore a dark suit that looked like it cost more than everything on that street. His watch shone brightly in the sun. His shoes looked like they had never touched dust since the day he bought them. People recognized him immediately, even if they had never seen him in person before. It was Obinna, the billionaire CEO of Obicorp Group. The youngest billionaire in the city. A man whose name opened doors. A man whose face appeared on magazine covers. A man who controlled businesses, money, and power the way a conductor controls a band. People normally only saw him from far away. Nobody expected him to stop his car beside a dirty street corner. But something even stranger happened next. Obinna walked straight to a homeless woman who sat on the cold ground. She wore an oversized brown sweater that had holes everywhere. Her hair looked rough. Her face was thin as if she had not eaten well for days. People knew her as the quiet woman who never begged for money. She just sat by the wall every day, hugging her bag tightly as if it carried the last pieces of her life. Her name was Ruth. Everyone expected Obinna to give her money or maybe ask if she needed help. But what Obinna did made even the wind stop. He went down on his knees. Right there on the dirty street floor. People gasped. One man dropped the bread he was holding. A bus driver forgot he was supposed to be angry at traffic and shouted, "Ah! Is this not Obinna? What is happening?" More people gathered. Phones came out. Some children stopped their morning chore of fetching water and stared. A market woman screamed, "Yezu!" A whole billionaire kneeling for a homeless woman. Obinna didn't look at any of them. His eyes were only on Ruth. Slowly he brought out a small red box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a ring so bright that even the sun seemed to step back. "Please, marry me." Ruth didn't move. She didn't blink. She didn't speak. She just stared at him, confused, shocked, and scared. Tears slowly filled her eyes. The crowd around them whispered loudly, "Is this real? Is it a movie? Why is a billionaire begging a homeless woman?" And then, like someone pressed a rewind button, the truth began to rise inside Ruth's mind. Because this man kneeling in front of her was not a stranger. He was not just a billionaire. He was not just someone from a different world. She knew him. And once, long before she ever slept on cold floors or begged for leftover bread, he had known her too. He had trusted her. He had cared for her. He had even loved her. But life had a way of turning sweet things into bitter ones. Before Obinna ever knelt down on that busy street, before people gathered with shocked faces and loud whispers, before Ruth ever slept on cold concrete floors, there was a time when her life was full of light, order, and hope. It was a time when she woke up every morning with a smile because she knew she was going to a place where she felt useful, respected, and seen. That place was Obicorp Towers. The building stood tall in the heart of the city, made of glass that reflected the sky. Whenever the sun rose, it shone so brightly on the building that it seemed to be glowing. People who walked past it always said the same thing. "One day I will work there." But not everyone got that chance. Ruth did. It happened on a Monday morning, almost 2 years before she lost everything. She had walked into the building for an interview. She wore a simple blue dress, held her CV tightly in her hands, and prayed silently as she walked to the elevator. She didn't have fancy degrees or a long list of certificates. She had only her honesty, her hard work, and her courage. What she didn't know was that those 3 things would matter more to Obinna than any certificate. Obinna remembered the moment she walked into his office. He had been expecting someone older, someone with expensive clothes and loud confidence. Instead, a soft-spoken woman with bright, hopeful eyes walked in. Her hair was tied back. Her dress was plain. Her shoes were slightly worn. But when she smiled, the whole room warmed. "Good morning, sir," she said politely. Obinna didn't know why, but he liked her immediately. During the interview, she didn't brag, she didn't pretend, she didn't act desperate. She simply said who she was and what she could do. "I don't know everything, sir," she said, "but I learn fast. And I will always give my best." Sometimes, the simplest words are stronger than the biggest promises. Obinna hired her the same day. At first, people in the company whispered behind her back. "How did she get this job? She doesn't look like someone who should be in the CEO's office. Maybe she won't last long." But Ruth proved them wrong, quietly, softly, and consistently. She arrived before sunrise. She stayed after closing. She learned everything she could. She organized Obinna's schedules, answered his calls, sorted his documents, and solved problems before he even noticed them. She memorized his favorite tea flavor, the way he liked his notes arranged, and the sound of his footsteps when he was stressed. Obinna began to depend on her more than he expected. She became the calm to his storms, the order to his chaos, the peace inside his noisy world. He trusted her with passwords, with confidential files, with business secrets people would pay millions to know. But it wasn't just trust he felt toward her. Slowly, too slowly for him to notice at first, he began to care for her. There were days she made him laugh after a terrible meeting. Days she reminded him to eat when he forgot. Days she sat beside him during late-night work and her quiet presence made his chest feel warm in a way he couldn't explain. And sometimes, he caught himself staring at her. Not because of her clothes or her hair, but because she always looked like she carried kindness inside her like a lantern. One evening while driving home, a surprising thought came to him. What if she is the person meant for me? He shook the thought away. He was a billionaire. She was his assistant. Their worlds were too far apart. Besides, he didn't want anyone to think he was taking advantage of her. So he kept his feelings hidden. And she kept working hard. Life was simple. Life was good. Until the day everything turned upside down. It began with numbers. Tiny numbers on a financial report. At first, they looked normal. Regular expenses, regular profits. But Ruth had handled those kinds of reports for months and something felt wrong. Some money amounts didn't match. Some payments looked duplicated. Some transactions were too large. At first she thought she made a mistake. So she checked again. And again. And again. But each time she checked, the numbers became stranger. Finally she realized the truth. Someone was stealing. Someone was pulling money out of Obicorp. Slowly, quietly, cleverly. She felt her heart pound. She knew she had to tell Obina. It was her job to protect him. She arranged all the documents neatly and planned to talk to him the next morning. She didn't know that trouble was watching her. She didn't know that the people stealing the money had eyes everywhere. She didn't know that by discovering the truth she had put herself, and Obina, in danger. That night, something frightening happened. She left the office late as usual. The air outside was cold and the streets were almost empty. Suddenly she heard footsteps behind her. When she turned around, two men in dark clothes blocked her way. They didn't smile. They didn't speak politely. They grabbed her hands and pushed her against a wall. "We know what you found," the first man whispered sharply. "You think you're smart?" the second one asked. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. All she felt was fear choking her. They showed her a gun, just a glimpse but enough to make her legs weak. "If you report anything," the first man said, "Obina will die." They told her they knew his home address. They described his car. They said they knew which days he traveled without bodyguards. They even knew where his mother lived. Every word hit her heart like a hammer. Ruth fought tears but they kept falling. She begged them to leave Obina out of it. She promised not to tell anyone. They warned her one last time, then disappeared into the darkness. She stood there shaking, feeling the world around her collapse. The next morning Obina asked why she looked tired. She forced a smile. "I'm fine, sir. Just didn't sleep well." She kept quiet about the stolen money. She kept quiet about the threat. She kept quiet to save his life. But silence has a price. The thieves continued stealing. Obina eventually discovered the missing money. And because Ruth was the one who handled those files, she became the person everyone suspected. "Why didn't you report this earlier?" Obina asked angrily. Ruth froze. She couldn't tell the truth. She did, they would kill him. So she stood there, silent. Obina stared at her with hurt in his eyes. "I trusted you, Ruth. And you betrayed me." Those words cut deeper than a knife. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. He fired her on the spot. His anger blinded him. His pain controlled him. In that moment he didn't see the woman who protected him, only the woman he thought had destroyed him. And after firing her he made a terrible mistake. He used his power to punish her. He closed her bank account. He made sure no company would employ her. He removed every trace of her career. He truly believed she had stabbed him in the back. Ruth lost her job, her home, her savings, everything. Within weeks she was on the streets. Cold nights, empty stomach, torn clothes, rain soaking her hair, people avoiding her face. And through all the pain she whispered one thing every night. "At least he is alive. At least Obina is safe." She still loved him, deeply, painfully, silently. But Obina did not know. Not yet. His discovery of the truth was coming. And when it came, it would shake his world the way he had shaken hers. For many months after Ruth disappeared from his life, Obina felt something strange in his chest, an emptiness he didn't want to name. He told himself it was anger, disappointment, or betrayal. But deep inside, it felt like something warm had been taken away. something he needed but didn't understand. He drowned himself in work. Meetings, new projects, late nights, angry calls, more meetings. People said he was stronger than before, tougher than before. But those who worked close to him knew the truth. He was colder than before. Without Ruth, his office felt too quiet, too sharp, too heavy. His tea tasted different. His schedules clashed more often. His documents got mixed up. Nobody understood his shorthand notes. Nobody reminded him to eat. It wasn't just that he lost a worker. He lost someone who had become a piece of his daily life. But he refused to admit it. Not until everything changed. One afternoon, while inside the boardroom, Obinna received a file, an internal investigation report. The company's legal team had dug deeper into the financial theft. They had traced every fake signature, every false entry, every hidden transaction. Every clue pointed to a group of senior employees who had been secretly draining the company for months. And then Obinna saw something that made his heart stop. The signatures that were used to frame Ruth were forged. Ruth had never touched those files. Ruth had never approved those payments. Ruth had never been guilty. The truth hit him so hard that he sat still for a long time, unable to breathe. His hands trembled as he scanned through the report. Each page broke his heart a little more. The people who stole from him. They left no trace, no messages, no cameras, no witnesses. They made sure the only suspect the world would see was the quiet assistant who handled the company accounts. The quiet assistant he fired. The quiet assistant he punished. The quiet assistant he destroyed. Ruth is Ruth. He remembered all the times she came into the office with red eyes, pretending she was fine. He remembered how scared she looked on her last day. He remembered the way her lips shook when he shouted at her. He remembered the silence she held so tightly. Silence he now understood. She had been protecting him, not betraying him. He leaned back in his chair, covered his face with both hands and whispered, "Oh God, what have I done?" The guilt poured over him like cold water. Every memory stabbed his heart. He had crushed the one person who would have given her life for him. He had pushed her into darkness. He had made her homeless. He had hurt someone who loved him deeply. "I have to find her," he said softly. From that moment, Obinna started searching. He sent people to every part of the city. He checked old addresses. He called people who once worked with her. He hired private investigators. He even went to shelters. But for weeks, nothing. Some said they had seen a woman who looked like her sleeping near an abandoned building. Others said she begged quietly near a bus stop. But by the time he arrived, she was gone. He searched in the early mornings, that he searched late at night, that he searched until his eyes were red. But he didn't stop. Because guilt pushed him, and love pulled him. Until one evening he found her. It was raining heavily. The kind of rain that soaked the whole world and made the city look like a blur of lights and puddles. Obinna was driving slowly, scanning every corner, every shelter, every street. Then, suddenly he saw her. She was sitting under a broken bus stop shed, hugging her knees to her chest, soaked to the bone. Her hair was tangled, her dress torn, her slippers worn out. She looked smaller, thinner, and weaker than he remembered. But Obinna knew her immediately. His heart cracked open. He stopped the car so quickly that water splashed everywhere. He stepped out, letting the rain wash over him. His hands shook. His voice broke. "Ruth?" She lifted her head slowly. When she saw him, she froze, not in anger, not in fear, but in disbelief. Her lips parted slightly. Her eyes widened. She looked like someone seeing a ghost. "Obinna?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair and clothes. "Ruth, I found you." She didn't move. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just stared, confused and afraid. "Why are you here?" she whispered. He knelt beside her, not caring about the muddy water soaking his trousers. "Ruth, I know everything now," he said, his voice shaking. "I know you didn't steal anything. I know you were protecting me. I know they threatened you. I know you kept quiet because you were afraid for my life." She began to cry, not loud but with tiny, painful sobs. "Obinna, they were going to kill you," she whispered. "They said if I talked they would shoot you. I couldn't let that happen." Obinna closed his eyes tightly. Her words struck him harder than any bullet ever could. "I'm sorry," he whispered brokenly. "I'm so sorry, Ruth. I failed you. I punished you. I took everything from you." Slowly, gently, he took her hand. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I am begging you to let me make things right." She looked down at their hands. His warm fingers. Her cold ones. She shook her head weakly. "I'm nobody now," she said softly. "I have nothing. I live on the streets. I'm dirty. You're Ruth, he said, cutting her off. The woman who protected me. The woman who worked harder than anyone. The woman with the kindest heart I've ever known. You're not nobody. She sobbed again. And I love you, he whispered. Her breath caught. He took a deep breath, rain still pouring around them, and slowly got down on both knees right there on the wet ground. Passers-by gasped, taxi drivers slowed down, people gathered under umbrellas. Everyone stared. Because it wasn't every day you saw a billionaire CEO kneeling in the street. But Obinna didn't care. He held Ruth's hands like they were treasure. Ruth, he said softly but clearly, I hurt you. I failed you. I abandoned you. But I promise you, if you give me another chance, I will spend the rest of my life protecting you the way you protected me. Her tears mixed with the rain. Let me take you home, he whispered. Let me take care of you. Let me love you the way you deserve. Then he said the words that made the whole crowd gasp. Ruth, will you marry me? For a moment, the world grew completely silent. Ruth stared at him, her heart pounding, her tears falling like the rain around them. This was the same man who once destroyed her life. This was the same man she once saved. This was the same man she once loved secretly. This was the same man she thought she would never see again. And now he was kneeling before her, begging, crying, asking her to be his wife. People held their breath. Cars stopped on the road. Even the rain seemed to fall more softly. Ruth finally opened her mouth. And her answer would change everything.